Hey, this is Brooks Brown with the Little Network. And for this video, I am joined by very disappointed looking high school students. So what are they disappointed about? Well, an article came out last week. New Alabama school cell phone ban could delay students from getting their driver's license. Now, I'll go ahead and preface this and saying I think this article, that title is a bit deceptive. So what's actually going on here? The recently passed law in Alabama banning cell phone use in schools has a far-reaching impact that could delay students from getting their permits or driver's license. So the focus law is the law that's being discussed as far as the cell phone ban that banned all cell phone use in Alabama high schools. But the reason this could delay you getting your permit is because a previous law that was passed in 2009. So this is something called Taylor's Law. This law was implemented after an unfortunate accident where a high school student was in a wreck and there were fatalities. And so this law now penalizes students that get in trouble at school by putting points on their disciplinary record. So for each point that a student has on their disciplinary record, they have to wait 1 week after their 15th birthday to get their permit or driver's license. So let's look at this a little bit more. According to the law, each accumulated point shall add 1 additional week to the age at which the student is eligible to be issued a learner's permit, motor driven operator's license, or driver's license. So if you are suspended from school, first infraction, 1 day in school suspension, you get 1 point on that disciplinary record, 2 points for out of school suspension, 6 points for an alternative placement, something like Pass Academy, and 20 points for an expulsion. So it's not the focus law itself that's put this in place. This was in place since 2009. Taylor's Law is from 2009. So what it does is adds those points to the record. And when you go to the DMV, so I teach a bunch of permit classes. I took a little over 300 kids to get their licenses last year. So when you go to the DMV, you have to take a school enrollment form. And on that school enrollment form, there's a section that says disciplinary points. So usually a school administrator or secretary or something will fill that in. And if a student has disciplinary points on the record, they'll do a calculation. It's just 1 week per point after the 15th birthday that the student has to wait until they are able to get their license. So let's look at the actual law. This is Taylor's Law, not focus law. If you need to know more about the cell phone ban, I've got another about 30-minute video on my YouTube here that you can go where I explain the whole thing and a little bit of Dothan's policies. But here's Taylor's Law. So there's more up at the top, but I'm just kind of cover the highlights here. So after a student is 13 years old, this is when these points start to go into effect. So at 13, if you have an in-school suspension, 1 point, out of school, 2 points, alternative place at 6 points, expulsion, 20 points. And these accrue over time. So they add up over time. But if a student goes a full year without getting any disciplinary points, so that's highlighted somewhere down here. Let's see. Anyway, if they go over a certain, here we go. Accumulated points shall be reduced by half if a student's not received additional points for 1 school year. If no additional points are received for 2 years, all records of accumulated points shall be removed from the student's record at school. So these points will add up. The most points I've ever taken a student to the DMV with was 61 points. So she had clearly gotten in quite a bit of trouble to accrue 61 points. But every student is going to have it on there. Now, if you hadn't gotten in trouble, they're just going to fill in a 0, but that spot has to be filled in, even if it's 0. If I go with a kid to, the DMV and the examiner sees that spot is blank, they will not issue a license. So we have to talk to somebody at the school, make sure the points are, all squared away. So this law has existed, again, since 2009. So it's not the focus law itself that is keeping kids from getting a license. It's breaking the focus law. So the focus law, if you don't give up your phone, the first time you get called on the phone, they're just going to take it. Your parent has to come get it. But the second time you can get in-school suspension, and then further infractions, you could get out of school suspension for more days. If you were told to give up your phone and you refuse and keep it, then you could face up to 90 days in alternative placement, which would accrue you a whole bunch of points. Like we see here, alternative placement. So that would be, I think it would be for those days. Now, they can't suspend you for more than a year after your first application, meaning suspend you from getting your license. But if you're not following the rules, then yes, you can accrue these points and it can delay you getting your license. But this could be for any any infraction that could get you an in-school suspension, out-of-school suspension, whatever. Doesn't have to be about the phone. So to say that it's the cell phone ban that's causing this delay, like I say, he kind of details a little bit further in the article. It's a little bit misleading, and I kind of hate that because, this law is kind of already up against it. A lot of people are concerned about it. And so these kind of articles that add any more, anxiety about it are really not helpful, because I do think the focus law in itself is a good idea. And keep in mind, driving's a privilege. And if we have students that can't follow the rules at school, why would we think they're going to follow the rules on the road where the consequences are potentially higher, serious injury or worse? So I think it's fair to say that if you can't follow the rules at school, you're going to have to wait a bit longer to get that privilege of being able to drive. So to say that the focus law delays kids getting a license is kind of like saying laws are the reason people go to jail. It's kind of true, but if you dig into it a bit, you go, no, breaking the law is why you go to jail. So it's not going to be the focus law itself. It's Taylor's law that applies these points, and breaking the focus law, bringing the phone, not giving it up, whatever, could get those disciplinary points on your record that could make you delayed in getting your permit. So anyway, I hope that sheds a little light on this, clears things up a little bit. If you had concerns about it, they're still a concern. Oh well, AC teenagers, what can you do? All right, follow the rules. You won't have to wait to get your permit.